Are you serious about becoming a better angler? Increasing your catch rate? Then be sure to check out the Teachin' Fishin' subscription service. The Teachin' Fishin' subscription service gives you access to exclusive web programming, seminars, live events, articles, workshops, and more every month. Early registration times and discounts on classes, events, and fishing education weekends gives you first chance to guarantee your spot. Check out the Teachin' Fishin' subscription service benefits and sign-up information by going to teachinfishin.com and following the links.
Hi anglers, welcome back to Teachin' Fishin'. I'm Captain Lance Valentine, and tonight we're talking about our 8 steps application and how it applies to fall walleye. How can we use our 8-step method to help you catch more fish in the fall? You know, fall is one of my favorite times to fish. Walleyes are hungry, they're big, they're the fattest they're going to be for most of the year, and they're aggressive. There's not a lot of bait left. All the bait that's left is big. There's not a lot of bait left, lots of hungry walleyes in small schools and very defined areas. It's a great time to get out there and catch that fish of a lifetime. So we're going to spend a little time tonight talking about how to apply our 8 steps to fall walleye. Now, before we go any further, for those of you who may be new, what are the 8 steps? So the 8 steps is a very simple process that I came up with about 25 years ago when I started doing seminars to make sure that we had a way to put every piece of information into a slot so it made it easy to teach and, more importantly, made it easy to make decisions on the water. So the 8 steps in order of importance are this. Step number 1 is be in the right location. Can't catch fish unless we are where they're at. Step number 2 is be in the right depth of water and know how deep your fish are. Step number 3 is to get your lure to the right depth. We call all of that the wear, above the line. Step number 4 is get your lure speed right. Step number 5 is lure size. Step 6, lure shape. Step 7, lure action. And last is lure color. So paying attention to those 8 steps in order of importance is going to help you catch more fish. So tonight we're going to talk about how to use these 8 steps to catch more fish in the fall. If you need a more detailed rundown of the 8 steps and how they work and a hardcore breakdown of each one of those steps, check out our website, teachinfishin.com. We've got all those past seminars online for free for you to watch. Okay, let's start with step 1 for fall walleye. Now, location is the biggest, most important piece of the fishing puzzle, and I'm going to tell you it's the piece of the puzzle that anglers spend the least amount of time worrying about. They worry about having new custom colors and all the fancy lures and all of this and all that, and we don't worry about putting those lures where fish can see them. The wrong lure in the right place is going to catch a lot more fish than the right lure in the wrong place. So step number 1 is location. So how do we apply that to fall walleye? A couple of key points for location for fall walleye to kind of get you in the general area. Number 1, look for access to current or shores that are getting a lot of wind. Current and wind is a big deal in the fall. You don't want to fish out of the wind unless it's too big to handle your boat. Get into the wind. Fish the shoreline that the wind is blowing into. If you have an influence of current coming in and or out of a lake, fish around there. That's going to attract bait. That water is a little more stable with current. The water's a little bit warmer. That's going to be a place that fish look. So look for access to current or windward shores. Hard bottom areas hold more fish this time of year than soft bottom areas do. Walleyes have a tendency to move towards steeper structures or areas that have steeper drop-off. So if you're fishing a point, one side's steep, one side's gradual. As fall comes on, the water gets colder, fish are going to move over to the side of the point that is steeper. They're going to fish drop-offs that are steeper. How do we know where those steep drop-offs are? Look at a lake map, and the closer together the contour lines are, the steeper the structure. Look for areas of steep structure. Look for quick access to deep water. Now, in the fall, walleyes may be 2 feet deep, 3 foot deep, 4 foot deep, 60 feet deep. They may be over 60 feet of water, 10 feet down. But no matter where you're looking for walleyes, no matter how shallow or how deep you're looking, make sure the spot that you're fishing has access to the deepest water in the area. That's very, very important, especially as the water gets colder in late fall. And pay attention to bays, neck down areas, and river mouths. Any place that current or wind is going to be pinched. So maybe you've got a lake or a reservoir that you fish and there's 2 bodies of water that are connected by a bridge and it's narrow there. Great place to fish. You've got, again, you got a river mouth coming in. Great spot. Anytime you've got a pinch down area, it's going to concentrate wind and or current water flow, you're going to see a lot of bait there. And lastly, and probably most important for fall walleye, before you put baits in the water, look for bait on your sonar. Make sure there's something there for the fish to eat. Very, very important. So there's a few tips to get step number 1 right, be in the right location. Step number 2, we're going to talk about depth of water and the depth of fish in fall. We already talked about this a little bit, but walleyes may be very shallow, very deep, or somewhere in between. Obviously, they're going to be some of those places. In the fall, you may have walleyes in 2, 3, 4 feet of water chasing bait against a rocky shoreline. You may have them on the bottom in deep structure in 40, 50, 60 feet. They may be 10, 15, 20 feet down over 40 feet of water in a basin. They could be anywhere in the fall. That's why it's important to find fish and bait before you fish. But later in the fall, as the water gets warmer, we like to use 52 degrees as kind of our tipping point for this. Later in the fall, walleyes they show a tendency to be over deep water. Now, they may not be deep. They may be over 40, 50, 60 feet of water. They may still only be 8, 10, 12, 15 feet down, but they have a tendency to be over deeper water as opposed to on shallow structure as the water gets cold. Again, 52 degrees is kind of our mark for that move to deeper water. Walleye will be located in the water column based on the bait they're feeding on. So if we get a nice, flat, bright, calm, sunny day, the plankton is going to come to the surface, the shad are going to come to the surface, the walleyes are going to come high in the water column. If we get a lot of wind, we get overcast skies, we get dirty water, that's going to force those walleyes down because the plankton schools are going to get all blown up. They're going to slide down a little bit and maybe start feeding on more shiners than shad. So pay attention to your sonar. Where are those fish in the water column? That's extremely, extremely important. Fall, more than any other time, is to know exactly where those fish are in the water column. And then lastly, look for walleyes in big, tight schools. Once you start to find one on your sonar, you should find a bunch more. So spend some time. When you drive with your sonar, you find some bait, you find some walleyes. Before you put baits in the water, drive around a little bit and see how big that school is. Make sure that you've got lots of walleyes in the area because this time of year, walleyes should be in packs. They should be in schools. So don't get fooled by just 1 or 2 fish on your screen and fish a spot that doesn't have a lot of fish. Spend a little bit of time, 10, 15 minutes once you mark that one little spot. See how big that school is. See how far north and south and east and west it goes. Make sure you've got a spot where there's lots of fish. The tighter the fish are packed, the more fish in an area because there is not a lot of bait. The tighter fish are packed, the more fish in an area, the more aggressive they're going to be, the more fish you're going to catch. Okay? So there are some basic principles on how to find the right depth of water and know how deep the fish are. Again, sonar becomes a huge part of this location. In step 3, our last step above the line, or our where part of this, is how deep to put your lure, depth lure. This is critical in the fall. Now, again, walleyes will be located in the water column based on the bait they're feeding on. We already talked about that. They could be anywhere. Here's a couple key points. Walleyes will come several feet up in the fall to bite a bait. I don't know why this is, but the cold water of spring and the cold water of fall, I've watched walleyes come 8, 10, 12, 15 feet up to hit a bait. Whereas in the summertime, warmer water, you need your baits closer to where the fish are. Set your spread up to be about 4 to 10 feet above the walleyes. Let them tell you where they are. Some days those fish want to come 8, 10, 12 feet up to get a bite. So let's say you've got fish, you're marking fish at 25 feet. I'd set a spread from about 23 all the way up to about 16 or 17 and let the fish tell me where they want to come to get that bait. That's a key part of the fishing when you're fishing for walleye in the fall, is getting the depth of your lure right, how far above the fish, and fish will come very, very high in the fall. Clear water, clear skies, put your baits higher above the fish. They've got a much better silhouette. The walleyes can be further down and look up higher and see those silhouettes of that bait. So as the water gets cleaner, if you got clean water, clear skies, get those baits further above the fish. And just the opposite, if you've got dirty water, you got dark skies, you've got a lot of wind breaking up that sunlight penetration, your baits are probably going to have to be closer to the fish because they can't necessarily silhouette them against those bright skies and clear water. So clear water, clear skies, baits further above the fish, dark water, dark skies, baits closer to the fish. And lastly, if you get really, really dirty water, and this happens a lot in the fall because we get a lot of storms, a lot of wind. If you get dirty water, but you get a little bit of sunshine, don't be afraid to run your baits high. When I say high, I'm talking about putting baits only 3, 4, 5 feet down in the water column. When the water gets dirty and you've got some sunlight, the only place that walleyes can really see, the only place that sunlight penetrates so walleyes can see a lure is in the top part of the water column. So if you get that dirty water or fall, you get some sunshine on a day, make sure you get those baits really, really high. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 feet deep. No deeper than that. You'll be surprised how many walleyes you catch in the fall, in cold water, in dirty water, a little bit of sun, with those baits way up high in the water column. Okay? All right, there are our first 3 steps, what we call above the line or the where. Let's take a quick little break and we'll come back to cover steps 4 through 8, the presentation part, or what we call the what, below the line, as we continue with 8-step application for fall walleye.
Polar craft are tough. Polar craft are riveted. Haha, unless you prefer welded. Both are reliable. Engineered to high standards of quality. Whether you prefer V-hulls or you opt for mod Vs, you have plenty of motor options. Polar Craft Boats.
Are you serious about becoming a better angler? Increasing your catch rate? Then be sure to check out the Teachin' Fishin' subscription service. The Teachin' Fishin' subscription service gives you access to exclusive web programming, seminars, live events, articles, workshops, and more every month. Early registration times and discounts on classes, events, and fishing education weekends gives you first chance to guarantee your spot. Check out the Teachin' Fishin' subscription service benefits and sign-up information by going to teachinfishin.com and following the links.
Eight-step application, fall walleye, part 2, take 1. Okay, anglers, welcome back to the second part of our 8-step application for fall walleye. And we've already talked about what we call above the line, or the where, location, depth of water, depth of fish, and depth of lure. Now we need to go below the line and talk about what? The presentation part of the puzzle. Lure speed, lure size, lure shape, lure action, and lure color. So let's dig into this. Let's give you a few tips to make sure that you're catching more fish this fall as we break down the 8 steps for fall walleye. Step number 4 is lure speed. And this is the most important part of your presentation. You can have the wrong color, you can have the wrong size of lure. If you get the speed right, you're going to get some bites, and then you can kind of dial in the program. That's why speed is above lure size, shape, action, or color. Remember, in the fall, walleyes are in tight schools and hungry. I'm going to make a statement here. Don't be afraid to try high speeds to trigger a strike. Now, most walleye guys go, well, you know, I went fast last fall. I went 1.8, 1.9, I even got to 2. I'm not talking about 2 being fast. I'm talking about 2.6, 2.8, 3. We've caught walleyes in water temperature right around 44, 45 degrees in the last couple of years at little over 3 miles an hour, 3, 3.1, 3.2. That speed is a trigger. Think about this. This is, you know, we've been preaching high speeds for about 5 years now. If you're a shad and you're swimming through the water, you're just living your little happy shad life, and here comes a 10-pound walleye behind you, what are you going to do? You're not going to sit and go, oh, I'm going to get eaten. You're going to do what? You're going to take off. Sometimes high speeds, and I mean high speeds, 2.5, 2.7, 2.8, 3, 3.1, 3.2, sometimes those can be a trigger to hungry, big fall walleye. Don't be afraid to try high speeds. Start catching fish, guys. This is how we do it on our boat. Start catching fish, whatever speed you're comfortable, and every time you catch a fish, go a little bit faster, and a little bit faster, and a little bit faster. You'll get to a point where the fish say, I don't want to go that fast. That's okay. So now if you were catching fish at 1.8, and now you can catch them at, let's go back. You catch them at 1.5, and now you can catch them all the way up to 2.5. You're covering 1 mile extra of water every hour. If you fish 5 hours, you've covered 5 more miles of water. You've put your bait in front of 5 times as many fish as the person going 1.5 is, and you're still catching. So every time you catch a fish, go a little faster, a little faster, a little faster until the fish tell you no more. Now you've got the speed for the day. Don't be afraid to try high speed, especially in the fall. I'm going to tell you this, speed is more important in fall than any other time. There's just something about speed. Obviously, springtime it happens. We see it sometime in the summer. But in the fall, I've got stacks of records. I'm a pretty detailed record keeper. There are days that 1.4 catches them, 1.3, 1.5 doesn't. There are days that 2.0 catches them, 1.9 doesn't, 2.1 doesn't. So when you get that speed dial in, that window is usually in the fall going to be very, very small. So find out how fast you can go and stay right tight on that speed. Speed is very, very important in the fall. Turns are an excellent way to find the right speed. So maybe you're freaking out, go, man, I can't go 2.5 in the fall. Okay, go your 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 and turn your boat pretty aggressive. Now those boards on the outside turn are going faster, especially the board all the way on the outside. Watch how many fish you catch on the turn on that outside board. I think you'd be surprised. That tells you you can go faster. So if you're not really comfortable going straight ahead, 2.5, 2.7, 3 miles an hour in the fall, set your speed and make sure that you constantly are turning, making wide sweeping turns, and pay attention to what side of the boat the fish are coming on. Inside of the turn is slower, outside of the turn is faster. I think you'd be surprised how many fish you're going to catch on that outside turn. And changes in speeds are very effective. Fall, I do a lot of stopping and starting. I may goose the boat up to 3 and then bring it back to 2.2 and let it go for 100 yards. Then goose it up to 3 and maybe go 5, 6, 7, 800 yards, a quarter mile, and then back her back down. Changes in speeds are a big deal in the fall more than any other time of year, and that's why the turns help. Because as you're turning, these inside boards are going slower, outside boards are going faster. Now we're going faster on the other side, slower on the inside. Try those things. Fish a little faster this year. Turn your boat more to kind of get more variances in speed, and you use a lot of changes in speed. I think you're going to catch a lot more fish this fall instead of just driving in a straight line at one consistent speed. Okay, step number 4 is our lure size. Now, you're going to see this opening statement here for the next 3 slides. Remember that the bait that remains in the water in the fall is big. All of our bait here in Michigan, we have some fall spawners, but they're not done yet. They're still laying eggs this time of year. All the bait we have here in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes spawns in the spring. Shiners, shad, alewives, smelt, they all are spring spawners. So by the time the fall gets around, these fish are now, the bait fish are now 3.5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inches long. The fish haven't seen a 2-inch bait fish in months. Bait is the biggest it's going to be, so be sure to use lures. We're talking about lure size. Be sure to use lures that imitate the bait that's in the water where you're fishing. I carry a lot of lures that are 3 inches to 9 inches long. I would say my sweet zone is 6 to 8. I carry a lot of wooden, I'm going to call them small musky baits in both wood and plastic. Excuse me, a lot of guys don't fish. The big 900 series reef runner was one of my favorites. I still have a bunch of those. I fish a lot of those in the fall, and they're 9 inches long, 8.5 inches long, 8.25, 8.5 inches long. I fish big spoons. The Warrior XL flutter spoon is something I'll fish behind a diver, or maybe some lead core, or maybe a tadpole on my corner rods. I like big spoons. I like big crankbaits. Husky jerk 12s and 14s. I like bigger ones, but that's what we've got. The bandits, the P10s, those baits that are 4.5, 5, 6 inches long. That's where your kind of sweet spot is, but don't be afraid to go a little bit bigger if you've got some lures in your box like that. Lure size preference is very prevalent in fall. This is really true. We see a lot of times where a 6-inch bait will catch fish and a 7-inch bait or a 5-inch bait won't. Just like that speed. The fish get a little more zeroed in the fall. When they're on something, they want that something. They almost become as picky as stream trout sometimes, right? So when you get that speed, the speed window is very small. When you figure out the lure size, stay on that lure size. So figure that out first. Put a couple different baits in the water, a couple different sizes. Figure out what size bait is being hit, and then start putting different options in that size in the water. You're going to catch a lot more fish. Keep trying bigger baits, just like speed. Keep trying bigger baits until the fish tell you you're too big. So you catch a fish on a 4-inch bait, leave that bait in the water, put a 5-inch bait in the water. Now you catch them on a 4 and a 5-inch bait, put a 6-inch bait in the water, you catch them on a 6-inch bait. Now you put a 7-inch bait in the water, you don't catch any more fish. Aha. So now you know your bait size is that 4, 5, 6-inch range today. Most guys don't spend enough time experimenting in the fall. And believe it or not, they're like, well, I got it figured out. They're eating this. If I put more of this in the water, I'm going to maximize my catch. That's not always true. The time to experiment with different sizes, shapes, actions, colors, speeds, the time to do that is when you are catching fish, not when you aren't. When you're over a hot pot of fish, try different things. The fish will tell you. So now you know, if you know you're fishing over fish and you're catching them going 1.8 with 4 and 5-inch lures, and you put a 6-inch lure and you don't catch any, or you go over those fish at 2 miles an hour and don't catch any, now you know. Driving over water where there's no fish and trying different things and it not working doesn't prove anything. So the time to experiment is when you are catching fish. That little bit of time that you take to try different things that may not work gets you closer and gets you more confident that what you are doing is right. Most guys, when we talk about pattern fishing, we talk about there's lots of right answers every day. There's only one best answer every day. Very few people work hard enough and make enough changes to get to the best answer. Don't be that guy. Keep experimenting, changing your bait size until the fish tell you, no, this is what I want. Give them options. Let them tell you what they want. That's important, okay? So we're going to go a little faster, and we're going to run baits a little bit bigger than we're used to until the fish tell us no. Okay, that's lure size. Number 6 is lure shape. And again, you're going to see this statement. Most bait remaining in the fall is big, so be sure to use lures that imitate that bait. Your fall selection. So, and again, this same thing we talk about, lure size, lure shape preference is very prevalent in fall. If the fish are on a long, skinny bait, that's what you want to give them. There's a lot of difference between the shape of a bandit, the shape of a P10, and the shape of a reef runner. They're all different. Give those fish some options and let them tell you what they want. Your fall selection. So when you have lures, you're building your crankbait selection specifically for fall, make sure you've got some really skinny baits. Make sure you've got some baits like the Yozuri or the reef runner that have a little bend in them. Make sure you've got some long baits that have a little bit of thickness to them like the old bombers do. The bandits are a little bit thicker bait than the P10s are. They're a little more round shape than a flat shape like the P10s in the top 20s are. Make sure you've got some short and fat baits. Make sure you've got some shads in your bait. Make sure you've got some number 9, number 11, number 7 flicker shads. Make sure you've got some shad wrap style baits in your box. Make sure you've got some bass style crankbaits, some bigger bass style crankbaits, those big O's, those bigger baits that most guys fish for bass. I catch a lot of fish on Bill Norman's O series. I've got some of those that are about that long with big giant bills on them. I catch a lot of fish on those. They have a different profile than any walleye bait you've got in your box. And some days that profile is better than traditional walleye baits. Traditional walleye baits tend to be skinny and long. Sometimes those bigger baits are a little bit shorter but a little bit fatter will catch you more fish. So expand your selection. Before you go out and buy another 30 different custom colors in a bait you've already got, buy some different shapes this year and experiment. I think you'd be surprised how many fish you catch. And again, lure shape is very prevalent in the fall. Once you find something that works, you've got it. Okay, lure action. One of the most important parts of picking a fall lure. I didn't grab the baits. I wanted to put them on the table. I didn't grab them. Make sure, 2 things when you build your selection of baits. Make sure you carry baits that have both large and small diving bills. And make sure you carry baits that run flat and baits that run nose down. So if you put a reef runner, a P10, a top 20 in the water, they have a tendency, those big billed baits have a tendency to run nose down. They run like this to the water, okay? That big bill and that nose down action gives them a very wide movement on the tail. So we get a slow, wide movement that's nose down going through the water like this. As baits get a little bit shorter bills, we get a much tighter action on the tail and we get a little more roll side to side. 2 completely different actions, okay? So take the top 10, or the top 20 and the P10, same exact size. Let's go back through our list. Same size, same shape, completely different actions. One's got a big deep diving lip, one's got a small shallow diving lip. Go to the Reef Runner series. One of the most popular baits still down Lake Erie. 800 series is a deep diver, 700 series is a shell diver. Same shape, same size, completely different actions. Okay, that's important. Here's where guys mess up. Let's take let's take the P10, the top 20. So I get to the lake and I go, man, those walleyes are down there. I want to get my bait down 18 feet. Everybody instantly grabs a deep diving lure to get it down there. Okay, well, that's okay. But that lure has that big build, nose down, wide tail action. What if that fish down there 20 feet, you want to get your baits down 18? What about that fish down there 20 wants a really tight action bait today? So don't always just grab a deep diving bait because you got to get deep. Sometimes a shallow diving bait, getting down deep, lead core, snap weights, inline weights, tadpoles, divers, I don't care, pick something. Make sure you get different actions down to the depth where the fish are. Once you figure out where the fish are, get some different actions in there. So it might be, maybe you got 6 rods in the water, maybe 4 deep divers and 2 shallow divers on weights to get them down. That's an important part of the puzzle. Make sure you've got baits, different sizes, different shapes, and different actions. Also make sure you've got some baits that run nose down and baits that run flat. Bandits run a little bit flatter. They don't run quite as nose down. The best example of this is the deep husky jerks. Deep husky jerks run through the water kind of flat. Gives them a different action in the water than baits that run nose down. If you've been on Lake Erie in the fall a lot like I have, you know there's days that husky jerks catch them and no other bait will catch them. That the husky jerks will outperform some other lure 10 to 1, and the next day you go out, can't catch a bite. I can't catch a fish on a husky jerk. Everything else is catching them. Part of that, actually a lot of that, is the way the bait runs through the water. So have some nose down runners and have some flat runners in your box. Have some shallow divers, deep divers, big bills, small bills. Again, we're giving the fish options so they can tell us what they want. And last on our list is lure color. It's the lure color is important. It can be very important in the fall, but it's not important until. Color doesn't matter until you get everything else right. You're better to have the wrong color at the right place, in the right speed, and the right shape, than you are to have the right color and have it be at the wrong speed, wrong place, wrong depth, wrong size. So color is important, but it's last. Here's some things I can tell you about color. Pay attention to the color on the bottom of your lure. Remember, we're running our baits up above these fish. So when we talk to guys at shows or we talk about crankbaits, we always take a crankbait and turn it over and show the bottom of the bait, right? The bottom of the lure, the color on the bottom of the lure catches fish. The color on the top of the lure catches fishermen. So I guarantee you when you go into your store this year and you're going to buy 20 more custom colors and you turn them over and they got all this cool stuff on the top and the side and the bottom is pink, I guarantee you you've got some pink lures in your box already. Same exact lure to the fish. Especially when it gets 3, 4, 5 feet above it, they don't even see the side. Okay? Pay attention to the color on the bottom of your lure. From our records, we know that 4 colors on the bottom of the lure outproduce other colors. Those 4 colors are this. We call them prop. They are purple, red, orange, and pink. Make sure your bait has one of those 4 colors somewhere on the bottom. It can be a little throat, it can be a little slash on the tail, it can be a full stripe down the belly. Those 4 colors excel in cold water, especially as the water gets colder. Now, here's something else that we learned. We had one of the guys in our teaching fishing group actually take a big stack of my fish record sheets that I have to do a project for a statistics class in college. So he wanted to go through all these baits, and I think we had a sample of about 1,200 fish. And what he wanted to do was figure out, is there a best color? So he took all the information from these 1,200 fish, put it together, and he found out, first of all, he found out that purple, red, orange, and pink on the belly catches a lot more fish than any other colors do. Here, this was important. There's 2 things here that came out from that analysis. As the water gets colder, use more baits that are white, bone, or gray on the base. Stay away from metallics. The colder the water is, the less productive metallic baits are. Dull body baits, even baits like purple or purple demon, where it's that flat purple. Stay away from metallics as the water gets colder. Flat-based or flat-bodied baits catch more fish. Whites, your bones, your grays, your flat colors catch more fish as the water gets colder than metallics do. And then lastly, again, as the water is cold, dots and stripes have a tendency to catch more fish, especially if dots and stripes are close to the bottom of the lure or on the bottom of the lure. So, think about how good the Wonder Bread series is. The red-headed, the yellow, the chartreuse-headed, the black-headed, the Barbie, the pink Wonder Bread that we do. Think of how effective those are, right? Orange peel is one of my favorites. Just a gray bodied bait with some orange stripes on the side and an orange throat. That's one of my all-time favorites in cold water. So dots and stripes have been shown to be more productive in cold water. So think about that when you're putting your lure selection together. As water gets colder, metallics are less effective, and dots and stripes definitely make a difference. And then purple, red, orange, and pink on the bottom of your lure. Okay, that's it. That's our 8-step application for fall. Be sure, especially if you're new, go over to our website, teachinfishin.com. We got lots of stuff going on. We'll have the Teachin' Fishin' TV channel up another day or two. Lots of programming there. You can also see all of our 8 steps. We did a breakdown of each of the steps in detail. We did an overview of the 8 steps, and now we're going back and actually using the 8 steps application. We've done an application for crankbaits, did an application for spoons, now an application for fall fishing, just to kind of help you make good decisions on the water. That stuff is all free and all available through our Teachin' Fishin' website, as is a lot of our past seminars that we've done. If you want more detail, check out our subscription service. We do 2 to 3 seminars and a live question and answer strictly for our subscription service members every month. So there's more information, deeper dives into fishing for just our subscription members. For one small price, you get 12 months of access to special content. So this month is Fall Walleye. We're doing a subscription seminar on, we're going to break down the 4 phases of fall fishing. We're going to break down location for fall in detail. We're going to talk about fishing crankbaits and some of the tips that I've found over the last couple of years that help you catch more fish with crankbaits. We're going to talk specifically about fishing the Huron, Ohio area and some spots to actually fish. That's all going to be part of our subscription service in November as we talk about fall walleye. So if you want all the detail you can get about fishing, check out our subscription service. You can go to teachinfishin.com and you can find that there. If you have a question or you want to get a hold of us, 2 places. You can send us an email, teachinfishin@gmail.com. We're more than happy to answer any fishing question you got. And check out our Facebook page, Teachin' Fishin'. Every Monday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. we do what's called Teachin' Fishin' Coffee Hour. It's a quick little chat for about an hour of just 1 or 2 topics, kind of a loose chat. And this is where we do all of our seminars. So occasionally I'll just pop up maybe on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night and say, hey, we're going to do a live seminar tonight on the Teachin' Fishin' Facebook page. So please go over there, like and follow our Facebook page to stay informed of what's going on at Teachin' Fishin'. All right, hopefully that helps you get an idea of how to catch more fish this fall by applying the 8 steps. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm Captain Lance Valentine. We'll see you back here again next time at Teachin' Fishin'.